Today I will show you the Windows Server cluster failover on our Oracle Private Cloud appliance. So now we are on the main page, the UI dashboard of the Private Cloud appliance. We are in the extend model for our PCA. From the main page, let's click instance to see what we have been created for the Windows Server cluster. From here, we are in the tenancy 3, which will be created the Windows servers and clusters on our tenants. So we can see here we have 3 instances. One is Windows 1, another one is Windows 2. We will join these 2 Windows Server instances into our cluster and has been already set up into the cluster. The 2 nodes will be set up as the cluster node. Check 1 information for the Windows 1. From here, we can see the Windows 1 is Windows Server 2022 with the standard edition. We have already created one attached block volume for this Windows Server. From here, we can see the attached block volume has been set up with the name Failover block volume. This volume has been attached to the both of the nodes of the cluster, both Windows 1 and Windows 2. This block volume will be set up and configured as a Chrome disk for the Windows cluster. Let's go back to the instance information. From here, we can see the Windows 1 instance has been attached to the Windows Cluster Failover VCN, that's a virtual cloud network, and while it has been configured with the Failover subnet, the Windows 1 instance IP will be offered from the subnet CIDR. So let's go back to the instance again. Let's check the Windows 2, another node of the cluster. Let's check that. Click into the Windows 2 information, we can see it also has been attached to one block volume, the failover block volume. This block volume is shared between both of the instances. And during the network, we can check in Windows 2 network, it has been assigned to the VCN network as well for the Windows cluster failover, and it also has been attached to the subnet failover subnet. From here, we can check the VNIC, and there's something special for the VNIC, which has been configured for the Windows 2 instance. So from the app network here, we can check it has been showing 3 IPs. One is assigned for the Windows 2 private IP. It has been assigned from the private network of the failover cluster network. Another 2 is that we need also assigned another 2 IPs to the Windows instance. One is for the internet communication for the cluster. Another one is a real cluster IP. This IP should attach to the Windows 2 instance. So for now, we have seen the configuration of the cluster node. So let's go again to the instance page. Another one is the Active Directory and DNS server for the cluster. We have set up as an AD test server. This server will provide the DNS and the Active Directory controller for the Windows 1 and Windows 2 instance as well as the whole cluster. So now let's go into the 3 servers to check what we have been set up on the failover cluster on that. And also we will show you how we can failover the cluster from one node to another node. So here we have already signed in to the Windows server clusters. Let's go back again. You can see there are 2 IPs. The public IP is used for login to the Windows cluster servers. So here we can check that we use the IP to log into the Windows 1 node, and we also use the IP 141 log into the Windows 2 server instance. And we also use another one, the 113, to log into the DNS server for the cluster. Let's first see the DNS server information for the cluster. So from the DNS server, we can see we already put a record of the Windows Server 1 and Windows Server 2, as well as the clusters into the domain controller. You can see the fail cluster IP, it is 10.10.10117. And for the Windows 2 and Windows 1, we also put the information of their A record into the DNS domain zone. So we can see that Windows 1 has been 10.1.2 and the Windows 2 has a 10.1.3. You can see here both of the IPs, private IPs of Windows 1 and Windows 2, the nodes IPs have been set up in the DNS zone. And here we also put the reverse lookup zones of the. We also set up the reverse lookup zone for the cluster and the nodes. The cluster IP has been put here. We can see the failover cluster IC hub has been set up here, and also the reverse zone has set up the both of the Windows 2 IPs, as well as the Windows 1 private IP has been set up in the reverse zone. So now the DNS information has been set up for the cluster and the nodes. Let's go to the cluster nodes to do the cluster failover. Here we can see we are in the Windows 1 and the Windows 2, the two nodes of the cluster. Sorry, not this one, this one. So this is a Windows 1 server. We can check the information of that. The Windows 1 and domain is icehubdemo.org. And the second one is the Windows 2 server, another node of the cluster. Its computer name is Windows 2 and domain is belong to the icehubdemo.org. Both of the nodes had already joined into the fail cluster, which is a fail cluster as hub, this cluster. So now let's check from the cluster failover manager perspective. So from the cluster failover perspective, we can see now the cluster demo, as you have a failover cluster demo, has been set up on both of the nodes. You can see here has been set up on both of the nodes. The nodes of both is up. You can see they're up. They're up. And now the cluster is belonging to the Windows 2 server, which is this one, Windows 2 server. So now we can also check the disk management to check the Chrome disk status of the both nodes. Because we already set up the block volume as a Chrome disk and attached to both of the nodes in the cluster. So now, because the current cluster owner is Windows 2, so we can see from here, from disk management, the Chrome disk is online on the Windows 2 node, but it is offline on the Windows 1 node. So now, first, let's try to join one node to see what will be happening. So now, please remember the current cluster owner is on the Windows 2. Let's join Windows 2 node. Join nodes. Let's see what will be happening. So we can see the Windows 2 node is being paused and joined. And you can see the cluster owner will automatically switch over to the Windows 1 node. And also we can check the disk. Chrome disk is still online, and the Chrome disk is still online on the cluster. But on the Windows 2 server, you can see the Chrome disk is offline. Before cluster failover and the node restraint, the node is online, the disk is online, but now it is showing offline on the Windows 2 server. And let's check again on the Windows 1 node to see how is the disk status. You can see the Chrome disk is online, but before that, the disk is offline on the Windows 1 node. So now, let's go back to the failover cluster and bring the Windows 2 up again. Let's resume that. Failover back. Now the Windows 2 is online. Let's check again. So now we can see the current host is Windows 1 and the Windows 2 is online. Let's do another failover to join node 1. You can see the cluster is back to the Windows 2 server, and also the disk is still online, and now the Chrome disk is online on the Windows 2. So the cluster has been failover to the Windows 2 and successfully. And let's go resume. That. Now, because you know that, the cluster owner has been switched to the Windows 2, and both of those is online. And now I'm going to shut down the Windows 2 server to see what will be happening. From here, I'm going to shut down that. It is stopping. And we can check from here for the Windows 1 to see what will be happening. So now it's still showing the stopping status of the Windows 2 node, and its current owner is still Windows 2. And the whole cluster is online for now. Let's see it has been stopped. The Windows 2 has been stopped. Now you can see it automatically switch over the owner to the Windows 1. And the cluster is still online. The Chrome disk is online, but we have already lost the connection to the Windows 2. So let's cancel that. And also see the disk, Chrome disk is still online on the Windows 1. And the Chrome disk is showing online on the disk 1. Now let's bring back to the Windows 2 server. Let's try to connect that. It's still in the starting status. So let's wait a bit. Now it's running status. Let's check again to log into the Windows 2 instance. I'm going to use the 141 for the login. Let's go to that. See here. Now we are in the Windows 2 server. Let's go to the Failover Manager. Cluster Failover Manager to open that. Expand that. Notes. Now both of the instances have been aligned, and the current owner is still Windows 1. So now let's stop Windows 1 to check the status again. Let's stop that. Shut down now in the Windows 1 instance. Let's go to the Windows 2. Sorry. Now we are in the Windows 2. Windows 1 is still in the stopping status. And now you can see the cluster has been switched to the Windows 2. And it's automatically online because Windows 1 is stopped. So the owner is on the Windows 2 and host cluster on the Windows 2. And we can also check the Chrome disk is still online for the whole clusters. And so this is what we're going to demo to you to show how we deploy the Windows Failover cluster on our PCA KVM platform, and it has been successfully delivered the clusters and configure the clusters on the PCA. So we can demonstrate that the Windows cluster can be successfully deployed on our private cloud appliance, the PCA.